How's it going, everyone? I am Jinsula, and welcome to another Pokemon Go deep dive video. Okay, so we are about to get Regirock returning to raid battles, and the discussion regarding how useful this Pokemon is inevitably comes up. While this Pokemon may never be relevant for raids or PvE content, it is quite underrated and overlooked when it comes to PvP. I'm going to be talking about all of this in today's video, so let's roll the intro and get right into it. Okay, so often when we discuss what the best Regi is in Pokemon Go, the typical answer has always been Registeel strictly because of its PvP capabilities. While that holds true to this day, the second best Regi has got to be Regirock for much of the same reasons. This Pokemon is actually much stronger than players may realize, especially now with a meta full of flying types. Of course, Regirock's usefulness will require a very specific setup, and it's only going to be good in one particular aspect of Pokemon Go. In order to best understand this, we should look at Regirock's details. This legendary Pokemon, like its namesake, is a pure Rock-type Pokemon. This gives it a weakness to fighting, grass, ground, steel, and water. It also has a resistance to fire, flying, normal, and poison. The good news here is that you won't have to worry about any double weaknesses. The bad news is that your opponents can have a straightforward response to this Pokemon. Since there is not another type that can complement or cover Regirock's Rock type, it is pretty easy to counter it as long as they have something that is strong against Rock. Moving right along, we need to talk about Regirock's stats. Alongside its Rock typing, this Pokemon has base stats that are extremely bulky. If you don't have a type advantage, you might win out with Regirock's high defense alone. This Pokemon has a base attack stat of 179, a base defense stat of 309, and a base stamina stat of 190. These stats are insanely good for the Go Battle League. While the attack stat is too low for this Pokemon to make any headway in raids, it is absolutely built for PvP. Finally, let's talk about Regirock's bread and butter, which is of course going to be its move pool. This Pokemon has one of the strongest fast attacks in the game when it comes to energy generation, Lock On. You will for sure want this move on Regirock. It can also come with either Rock Throw or Rock Smash, but neither of these are as viable as Lock On when it comes to PvP. In terms of Regirock's charge attacks, it can come with Stone Edge, Focus Blast, Zap Cannon, and Earthquake. You can immediately see that Regirock packs mostly high damage nukes in its arsenal. Paired up with Lock On, and you have yourself a Pokemon that can unleash high amounts of damage over a short period of time. Probably the most ideal charge attacks will be Stone Edge and Focus Blast. Both of these attacks will handle some of the heaviest hitters in the Ultra League and give you plenty of coverage against Pokemon like Registeel. Something to keep in mind is that Regirock is basically a hard counter to fire, flying, and poison, but can also be a strong answer to ice types, dark types, and even fairy. All of these types are really common right now in the Ultra League, so you can round out your teams with this one Pokemon and it'll be hard for your opponents to answer. Regirock is going to be really good against Talonflame, Charizard, Mandibuzz, Pidgeot, Umbreon, Obstagoon, Sylveon, Alolan Muck, Alolan Ninetales, Granbull, Empoleon, Registeel, Walrein, and Giratina Altered Form. A lot of these Pokemon are at the top of the meta, so expect players to run with any of them. Of course, you should also keep all of Regirock's weaknesses in mind when you're constructing your team. Have answers to fighting, grass, ground, and water. Some of the common Pokemon you might come across that are strong against Regirock include Trevenant, Swampert, Venusaur, Scrafty, Lapras, Machamp, Cobalion, and Nidoqueen. Cover these Pokemon and you should be good to go. Now, Regirock has a lot of the same benefits as Registeel in the Go Battle League. However, the key difference is that Regirock is currently only available for the Ultra League. Since it is not possible to get a Regirock under 1500 combat points, you won't be able to bring it to the Great League. However, it probably won't be good in the Great League as it is in the Ultra League. This is because there are plenty more counters in the Great League than what you would find in the Ultra League, and also plenty more rock types that would be better. However, if you were to somehow get yourself a Regirock that is eligible for the Great League, it might be worth a try. Now, in terms of why you should consider using it in the Ultra League, there are plenty of reasons why it can make a huge impact. For one, the overall strength of Regirock is its bulkiness. Like I said before, you could win out a ton of neutral damage matchups and even a few bad matchups depending on how many shields are left. Since the Ultra League is filled with low defense Pokemon, this could net you a strong advantage. Another reason why Regirock is good is its flexibility. Even though it only has one type, you can still use it to fill in plenty of different team makeups. If you need a good anti-flyer, for example, Regirock can be a great cover. If you want a hard-hitting closer, Regirock can fulfill that role as well. Finally, and this is probably the most notable reason, Regirock has some of the best moves in the game for the Go Battle League. Very few Pokemon have access to the Fast Attack lock-on, but for the ones that do, have significantly high battle capabilities. While this attack deals practically no damage, it generates an insane amount of energy. Since Regirock has mostly hard-hitting charge attacks, you will be spamming powerful moves constantly. This will pressure your opponents into using shields inefficiently and will open up the rest of the battle for your other Pokemon. Also, you can utilize Regirock's phenomenal moveset to easily dispatch Team Go Rocket Grunts. In most cases, having a high-level Regirock with Lock-On and Stone Edge will easily take care of Grunt battles that are weak against Rock. But like with raid battles, certain other Rock types that are more built for PvE over PvP will likely perform better. Rampardos comes to mind. Overall, I feel like there are so many upsides to downsides with this particular Pokemon. Whenever it is in raid battles, players tend to completely ignore it considering it is harder to defeat compared to other raid bosses, and it is completely irrelevant for PvE. However, much like Registeel, this Pokemon is definitely going to shine in the Go Battle League. Since the Ultra League is really difficult for most players, specifically because of the lack of easy to get viable Pokemon, doing Regirock raids might just be worth it for you. However, most players won't be enthusiastic for this particular Pokemon, so if you want one for the Ultra League, then make sure you communicate with your friends that you are interested in this raid boss. One final note I wanted to mention before ending this video, Regirock is going to suffer one problem that other legendaries in PvP have. Regirock's ideal PvP IVs are going to be very difficult to get, as you will need to trade for it from another player. While a non-weather boosted Regirock from raids will comfortably be under the 2500 limit for the Ultra League, you will likely have to run one with not the most ideal IVs. However, if you can find yourself a like-minded trainer who is also looking for PvP IVs of this Pokemon, then you should stock up on as many of these as possible and do as many general non-lucky Regirock trades as you can. If you're lucky, you might end up with a powerful PvP ready Regirock. So yeah, Regirock is by far one of the most underrated legendary Pokemon. While it may never be a viable rock type for raids, it will most certainly get you ahead in the Go Battle League's Ultra League. Therefore, I suggest you raid it as much as you can. You won't regret it. But in any case, that's going to be it for this video. Leave your thoughts down below what you think about Regirock. Have you been using it in the Ultra League? How has it been performing for you? Let me know in the comments and let's have a great discussion. And if you ended up enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then be sure to check out the links in the description below. For all my patrons, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list. So if you want to interact with me in some way, like with remote raids, then do consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. But yeah, that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.